So power rankings for week 16 of Super Rugby. It's a bit of a different one just because none of the South African conference teams played this week. So yeah, it's just been a bit harder to rank the teams. But I guess all the other teams, or a lot of them, had a game in hand anyway. So it's just starting to kind of even out. There's one result which is particularly surprising, but I'll go over that in a minute. First one. Sunwolves are at 15. Shock horror. Their B team, once again, didn't disgrace themselves over in Australia, but it's another loss. The record's 2 wins, 11 losses. Yeah, maybe they can get back on the horse after the June break, but it's just not pretty. Next, and down 1 are the Reds. The Reds have had another loss, this time at home to the Waratahs. It was a massively points-heavy match with a ton of tries to both teams, 90-odd points in the game. It's another loss, though. And this young team of the Reds is certainly capable of better. And yeah, we just need to see them kind of put the complete package together at some point. It may be we have to wait till next season because despite the improvements, they still seem to be lacking in some pretty key areas. Next, and up 1, this is the result I'm talking about, which is surprising. The Blues are up 1 into 13th. When I saw this result, after I did my little calculations, I was thinking the Blues have just suffered one of their worst losses, like one of their lowest points in their history. How on earth have they gone up in the power rankings? Their loss to the Rebels at home pretty much means they've only got one home match left, and that's against the Reds. If they lose that one, they'll go through a whole season without winning a single game at home. It's pretty tragic, but if you look at their records, the Blues are 3 wins, 10 losses. The Reds are 4 wins, 9 losses, so it's pretty close. But the main thing being shift the kind of weighting of the rankings to more recent results over the early rounds. The Reds essentially obviously had to bye the first week with all the Aussie and New Zealand teams. The first week they played, week 2, they got pretty badly beaten, and then they won 3 on the trot. So 3 of their 4 wins came in week 3, week 4, and week 5. But we're now after week 16, and since then they've only had 1 win. So the Blues are not much above them by any means, but yeah, it's not good reading for both sides, to be fair. If the Reds can go into Eden Park and get a win after June, then that may be fitting. But for the moment, the Blues have got them, but not by much. Next, Stormers are down 2, obviously on the bye this week with all the other South African teams. Their record's 5-9-0. They are mainly just moving down because another team has gotten another win, and that team is the Brumbies, who, believe it or not, have just strung 2 wins together. So their record is now 5 wins, 8 losses. The Brumbies were down in, I think, 14th not that long ago. But wins over the Bulls away, and now the Sunwolves at home, albeit a pretty weak Sunwolves team, is still a win. So we've got to give them a bit of credit for that. And yeah, again, we'll see how they go after June to see if they're able to kind of put some form together, because they've not been one of the form teams of the comp so far. But there's still a few guys like Tom Banks especially who are looking to impress. Next, the Bulls are down 1, also on the bye. So more just other teams shifting around them, and that team in particular is the Rebels, who I gave a bit of grief in power rankings last week, saying that they'd only beaten 4 teams. Well, they've beaten 5 now. They beat the Blues. It's a weak Blues team, so not a huge shift for the Rebels, but hey, it's an away win. It's a win over a New Zealand team, and it's a win that wasn't close. It was 10 points, so it was comfortable, if not not a huge win. But I'll just give them that credit where it's due. I think the Blues were pretty heavily favoured in that one, so for the Rebels to pull through, yeah, I've got to give them a bit of credit. Next in 8th, the Sharks do not move on the bye. nobody enough to quite pass them. Nobody's fallen below them, so they're sticking where they are. The Lions have moved down one spot. Lions' record is 8 wins and 6 losses. So again, for the Lions team, which were a finalist the last 2 years, not a great record, but yeah, there's still time to go at the end of the season, and in terms of the conference system, they're sitting pretty well. This team, the Waratahs, has leapfrogged them, so they are up one spot. A win over the Reds, albeit a pretty weak Reds team based on current season form, but it's a Reds team that did manage to beat the Lions, so they're far from a terrible team. They're just not a very good team at the moment. It's a team full of potential. So the Waratahs went into Queensland and did the job. Again, it's a weak team, so they didn't make a massive shift on the power rankings, but hey, it's an away win from home, so we'll give them that credit. And yeah, if they can come back from the June break without too many injuries, you never know. Again, still top of the Aussie Conference, so if they're able to get a home playoff match, I'm not going to write them off. Next, down 2 spots, the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a chance on the weekend to really put their hand up and say that they're a contender, but the Crusaders just did one over on them. So yeah, not quite there yet for the Chiefs. We all know they can play better than they did, but it just shows when the Crusaders are doing their thing, they're a pretty tough nut to crack. So not many teams have done it this season, and I think that's at least 10 in a row for the Crusaders now. So yeah, tricky. Next, the Jaguares. Again on the bye, so the Chiefs have dropped below them, but another team's jumped above them, so nothing really shifting there. The Highlanders, with their impressive win over the Hurricanes, have gone up into 3rd. Their record now reads 9-4-0, so 9 wins, 4 losses. At home, these guys are going to challenge anyone. They can probably beat anyone on their day. It's just if their away form doesn't quite match it, where they kind of run into a bit of trouble. So we'll see how they go between now and the end. If they can somehow squeak through and perhaps pip the Hurricanes for that home playoff match in 4th, because you got to think it's going to be tricky for them to catch the Crusaders. But yeah, you never know what they could do from 4th. Next, 2nd spot, still the Hurricanes. Yeah, they've increased their loss total in the last couple of weeks, haven't they? A couple of weeks ago, they were 10 wins and 1 loss. It's now 10 wins and 3. So not a great little run they're on. But I suppose the June break actually comes at a good time for them, because they're on a two-loss run. Good chance for them to have a break. The All Blacks guys get to go and perhaps get a winning feeling against France, and then the guys who stay in camp get to kind of re-energize and refocus and see if they can get back into some form. Lastly, it's the Crusaders. There's just no one even near them at the minute. Honestly, from the Lions, there's a gap between them and the Sharks, which are kind of like the top teams and the not so top teams. But again, there's another gap between the Crusaders and everybody else, because they are 14 wins, 2 losses. So it's just looking pretty ominous. Anybody to go into Christchurch and get a result in the playoffs is going to be one mighty task. They've been pushed this season, but very few teams have gotten over them. So we'll see how they go. Scarily, it always seems to be without some of their big name players as well. So we'll see how they go going forward. What do you guys think of Super Rugby at the moment as we go into the June break? Do you think any of these teams are likely challengers in the playoffs? Obviously, my rankings are slightly different from what the table reads, but still, for the most part, the top teams are at the top and the bottom teams are at the bottom, as to be expected. But yeah, and can you stomach the Blues jumping up a spot? I find it difficult, but like I said, the maths is there, even if my kind of heart isn't in that one. All right, guys. Yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.